I am happy to be here. I'm happy to be alive because I had a guy follow me to my car earlier at the grocery store. Yeah, it's never George Clooney that follows you to your car at a grocery store, is it? No, this guy had a tattoo that said, "Just do me." Yeah. No, on his face. On his face. He had about 4 teeth in his mouth. That's not an estimation. I'm rounding up from 3.5. And he had that one crazy guy eye, you know, that just gone rogue. It looked like it was being remotely controlled by a cashier at register 2. Yeah, and this guy cabbage patches his way up to me. And he says, "I had to follow you to your car because you look so good in your pants." And then he reached into his pocket, pulled out a piece of chicken, and started eating it. Yeah. Every girl's dream. So as I'm loading my groceries into my car going, gee, I wonder where they're going to find my body eventually, he says, "Are you married?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I am. I'm married." And then he says, "What did you do that for? What about everyone else?" And I snapped. I did. I was like, you know what? No one cared that I was single before I got married. Nobody cared. You know, where were you when I had to pay my cousin $50 to take me to the prom? Where were you then? Yeah. Where were you when I cut off all of my hair in my Annie Lennox phase and everybody called me Bill for 2 years? No, 2 years, even after it grew back. Yeah, and I have an idea. Why don't you put your chicken back in your pocket and at least offer to help me load these groceries into my car, you know, like a gentleman? And then his eyes widened, individually, of course. And he just simply turned and walked away. And I guess that's when I realized I'm too crazy to abduct and murder. Which, I don't know, it's a blessing and a curse, I guess, because I live in Van Nuys. And thank you. It's not necessary. This is how I explain Van Nuys to people who aren't from Van Nuys. It's the kind of place that has a bad reputation, you know? But I can say this about it. The number of people shot every year is still less than the number of pornos shot every year. So we have that going, you know? It will ruin watching House Hunters International, you know? Little difficult to get excited about a doctor buying his second house on Fiji when you're watching your neighbor sell meth out of a boat in his front yard. Difficult then. Yeah, this is how bad Van Nuys is. We get double the number of people selling religion on our doorstep, you know? Like double at dinner. It's every day during dinner. I'm going to get a sign for my front door that says, "You need to get off of my porch or you're going to Jehovah's Witness me kicking your ass." That's going to happen. I know for a fact Jesus does not want them knocking at my door during dinner. I know that for a fact because of the painting of the Last Supper. You know the painting where all the disciples are gathered around and Jesus is in the middle doing this. It's because they just knocked on the door during dinner. He's like, "Really? It's my Last Supper. I've heard the news. Okay, move it along, move it along." I have 2 dogs that I think of as my kids. My furry little boys, and I have a friend who has actual children, human children, running around. And I will say I think of my dogs as my kids, and my friend will be like, "You can't compare having dogs to having kids. It's apples and oranges." And I will say to her, "Can we just agree that apples and oranges aren't that different? They're both fruit, okay? If somebody said, 'Do you want an apple or an orange?' You'd be like, 'I don't care. I'm going to take it home. It's going to rot, and I'm going to throw it away in a week.' Nobody cares about fruit." But also what you mean is that you can't compare the two, right? You can't equate the two. I can compare any 2 things. I can compare Bill Cosby to Mother Teresa, okay? One probably raped a bunch of women, and the other one definitely raped a bunch of women. For sure. Yes. I have a friend who happens to be a proud gay man, and we were going to the mall in his neighborhood, and he was giving me directions. And I said, "Do I turn here?" And he said, "No, go forward." I go, "Okay, is this my turn?" He said, "No, keep going forward." And I said, "Why do you do that? Why do you say go forward instead of go straight?" And he said, "Because I don't want to encourage anyone to go straight." I'm like, all right, I agree with that. I completely agree with that. I do. So we went shopping. We had a lovely day. We got back to my car, and I said, "Just put your bag up front." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "Because I don't want to encourage anyone to put their package in my trunk." It's fair. It's very fair. I am lucky enough to do this professionally. I travel a lot, and my husband and I sort of use it as an opportunity to watch the shows that the other person wouldn't want to watch, you know? Like if I'm on the road, like the other night in a hotel, I watched the Beyonce documentary on HBO Go, and it was awful. You guys, it's terrible. She spends the whole first hour complaining her dad pushed her too hard to sing and dance. What? Like, my dad pushed me hard, but it was to deliver penny savers. Yeah. No, year-round in Buffalo, New York for my entire childhood. We made $25 a week throwing garbage on our neighbors' doorsteps, you know? And I get it, $25 might not seem like a lot of money today, but back then, that wasn't a lot of money. It wasn't. This is on me, though, because I should have known it was going to be terrible. I should have known it was going to be terrible because the title of this documentary is Beyonce, in her own words, life is but a dream. In her own words, life is but a dream. No, Beyonce, those are not your words. They belong to Row, Row, Row Your Boat. Who are you? You're rich, you're beautiful, you're famous, and you're stealing from Row, Row, Row Your Boat. No, just no. And my husband watches all things car channels like Velocity TV, Speed TV, Cars. I can't even watch the commercials on those. There was this commercial for AutoZone that went, if you want it and you need it, just ask us and we'll get it. What? Isn't that how every single auto store works? Like you walk in and you're like, yeah, I need a radiator for a 68 Chevy Camaro. And the guy's like, okay, I'll get it. Like, that's how every single auto store works. I think it sounds like something I'd say to my husband too when I'm really ticked off. Like, look, if you want it and you need it, just ask me and I'll get it. I don't understand why they ask you if you need it, if you want it and you need it. If you need it, they're not going to give it to you. I don't understand what's happening. Is some guy spending $200 and his entire Saturday fixing things on his car that aren't broken? What's happening? Sorry, it's just a hot button topic for me because it infuriates me that they're spending all of this money on an advertising campaign that simply explains how every auto store works. That's like an OBGYN's jingle being, we'll put you in a paper gown and ask you to scooch. We'll fondle your boobs and poke around in your cooch. Well, that's just crazy. Oh my gosh, you guys are fun. You're fun.